Hello everybody, this is Tommy's Outdoors 72. And today's episode of the podcast was recorded a good few months ago. I feel like it was still recorded in the winter, way before the COVID thing hit. And it was sitting comfortably in the backlog until today, and I guess now it's a good time to publish it. For no reason, it's just the time to publish it. Our guest today is Mel Robinson, who is the Director of Animal Care for Seal Rescue Ireland. Disclaimer, or I want to qualify that I know good and well that human-seal conflict is a thing, and subject of actually rescuing seals may be controversial to some other not, and there's a lot of discussion and emotions around that subject. And this is not something we're gonna dive into today. I feel like the issue is important enough that it deserves to be treated separately, and I am planning to either publish a documentary video on my YouTube channel, just subscribe to my YouTube channel, or maybe just dedicated a podcast, dedicated a whole show to human-seal conflict. But today we're gonna talk solely about Seal Rescue Ireland, what they do, how they do, why they do what they do. We recorded that episode after a Seal Rescue Ireland workshop where Mel was training the volunteers for Seal Rescue Ireland. So after that workshop, we sat down and we talked for an hour about Seal Rescue Ireland. So if you're interested in that subject, then I am sure that you will like this podcast. And if you have any opinions about human-seal conflict, or perhaps you would like your voice to be heard in the show dedicated to that subject or in my documentary, please get in touch. It's easy to do through all the various social media channels. And now, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mel Robinson. Mel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, I almost feel sorry for you because you just delivered 4-hour training on seal rescue, and I'm going to ask you some of the same questions. But on the other hand, you get used to saying the same thing over.
Yeah, you do.
So you are Director of Animal Care at Seal Rescue Ireland.
I am indeed, yep.
So the first question, which is like almost mandatory question in my podcast, is like, how did that happen? How did you get that job? Because I say like many times, like people I'm interviewing or I'm talking to, they have all sorts of great jobs. And I know that a lot of my listeners are people who are, 9 to 5 in the office, and they think like, oh, I wish I had I'd be charter skipper, or I work for Wildlife Trust, or for so I always ask this question, like, how did that happen? Was it like an accident? Was it like planned and you always knew you were gonna do that?
It was an accident. I also have a 9 to 5 office job as well. Seal rescue isn't my only job. I love seals, always have done, and I started off, I wanted to volunteer at a seal rescue centre, and the one in Northern Ireland does not take volunteers.
Oh.
So a friend of mine suggested to me to go and visit Seal Rescue. Mm-hmm. So I did, and I started getting involved, and basically 1 weekend a month I would volunteer. Mm-hmm. And after that, it turned into 2 weekends a month, it turned into 3 weekends a month, it turned into every weekend. Mm-hmm. So it basically just went to, I was a volunteer, I was down working with the seals, cleaning kennels, doing the usual. So then I started to get more responsibility. Things were changing in the charity. We needed more directors on the board, so I got more involved. And from there, it's just got bigger and bigger.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So tell us what Sea Rescue Ireland does. What's the purpose?
Basically, we rescue and rehab seals from all over the coast of Ireland. So we cover basically from Donegal right the way down the west coast, round by Kerry, Cork, up into Wexford, Waterford, right up to Carlingford Lough. So seals in distress or in trouble or injured in that area, we rescue them and rehab them and release them back out into the wild.
Okay. And so obviously, maybe you're going to just explain what is the situation with seals, because the seals are protected species, right?
They are.
And I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but there was like a huge decline in the seal numbers, and there still is a problem with the seal population, right? So please tell to our listeners, like, what is the situation? Why seals require to be rescued?
All animals deserve a second chance. That's my personal opinion. As for seal numbers, we're actually waiting on the counts coming in from local areas at the minute, because we don't have exact seal numbers from around the area. But no matter what animal it is, we want to help it. And if there's a seal out there is injured, we will do our best to help. We won't let it die.
So your what you're doing is driven purely from compassion side rather than wildlife conservation aspect.
It's from all sides. We do it for a conservation side. I'm doing it because I love doing it. But as a charity, Seal Rescue Ireland, we're doing it for conservation. We're doing it for all different sides of the coin. You do need seals out there in the water. They produce a lot of oxygen in the sea. There's a lot of stuff they are required for.
Yeah. How do they produce oxygen? This is what I'm going to ask you, because as the mammals, they kind of absorb oxygen.
You're asking me a hard question now.
Okay. Because this is something I heard that as well, that the whales produce oxygen. And it's like, okay, how they produce oxygen? I know trees produce oxygen.
I'm not a scientific person.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have never done the science of it, but it's stuff we have learned along the way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's been. I heard that too. Even here today.
Somebody mentioned that earlier on as well. I did hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us how you operate and how does the Sea Rescue Ireland work? So you obviously work based on the work of volunteers, and this is just if you can walk us through like what is the usually process and what's going on and how it looks like.
Yeah, basically, at the minute we have quite a few full-time staff. A lot of our volunteers come from all around the world. We have volunteers from Canada, the US.
Really?
Honestly, yeah, volunteers from Europe. Everywhere, Ireland, you name it, we've got a volunteer from there or have had in the past. A lot of our volunteers, because it is volunteer work, can only stay for 3 to 6 months. It's not a paid job for them, and unfortunately not everybody can work for free. But they come, they have a fantastic experience. They learn so much. Some of them have never even seen a seal before.
Wow.
So they come in, they learn how to tube feed it, they learn how to, teach it how to feed for itself. They see it going from being a sick, injured little baby pup up until a pup that can be rescued. And it's an amazing opportunity for them. As a charity, we are doing more and more work. We have more volunteers coming in. We're running more programs now. We have an education program that, we have people go out to schools to do talks because we want to educate the public on seals as much as possible.
Yeah.
We have schools come to us for talks and the kids love it. And then obviously we have our fundraising programs going and there's so much to it. It's not just a simple case of rescuing a pup, feeding it.
Yeah.
There's so much to do.
Yeah. So it's also educational aspect of it.
Education is our big thing right now because again, people need to learn what nobody knows. You heard people even here today asking questions, I've seen a seal on the beach. I thought it had to be in the water. People just assume that a seal needs to be in the water. It doesn't. So again, it's all education, teaching people what they need to know.
Yeah. It's like it's a common thing. And again, not the first time that it's mentioned that people are kind of detached from wildlife and they don't know. And like the same thing is going on with deer as well. Like they see a little deer and sure enough, that deer needs to be rescued. It's like, no, leave it alone.
That's it. People don't know. And we've even vets that don't know. I take my dog to my local vet at home, and every time I go in, they're like, oh, tell me something you've learned about a seal this week, or because they've never seen a seal, they don't deal with them. So, there's a lot of education out there. And then, of course, it's, it's not just the education about the seals. We're doing the conservation side of it and, teaching people, don't leave your plastic on a beach, don't leave your fishing nets there because it can, there's consequences of it.
Yeah.
So it's a big education program we're running right now.
Okay, environmental awareness.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah,
Because unfortunately we're getting too many seals with injuries due to environmental issues and stuff. So we're trying our best to educate.
So you're educating people, and then I was going like, because also it was a good few months ago, maybe even over a year, I was talking with a lady from Wildlife Rescue Ireland.
Emma Higgs?
No, I can't remember now her name. But it was like a kind of similar, but they're like the whole spectrum of the animals, hedgehogs and deer. Well, actually, deer not, because the deer suffer from post-capture homeopathy, something like some condition. But you're focusing solely on seals. So your sea otters, other animals, is not something.
I mean, we used to help otters, but it just got to the point, there were too many seals coming in that we couldn't do. Sometimes we'll still take other wildlife and hold it until it can be transported to another centre. But our main focus is rehabbing seals. We just don't have the time or the facility to take other animals.
Yeah. So the big part of the workshop today was first to identify whether seal needs help.
Yeah.
Right. So that's usually, I presume that this is how it starts. That the people are just walking down the beach, and they look at they see the seal, and they don't know what to do with the seal. And so, what are the first things that you would say to look for when someone sees the seal, just to determine whether the seal needs to be rescued or not?
I mean, if it's just general public finding the seal, we ask them just to take a photograph, stay back from the seal, because the seal can get distressed, and send it to us as soon as possible. That way we can determine whether the seal actually needs help. Seals spend a lot of time on land. They're very lazy. They'll go and have a feed and then come up and just spend the day on land chilling out. And a lot of people just assume that there's something wrong with them. So if we have a photograph, we can determine pretty much straight away whether that seal needs rescued or not.
Right.
And we just ask people to stay away, keep their dogs away, and, just let it be in peace, let it rest.
Yeah. So you're not asking people to figure out whether a seal needs rescue or not. You're saying, like, send us photos, and then we make a decision.
We'll make that decision because, just Joe Public walking down the beach will just assume every seal needs rescued. If we rescued every seal we got a call about, we'd need a centre that holds about 2,000 seals.
Yes.
So that's something we determine, myself and our animal care manager, Sam, will determine whether the seal needs help.
Right. But on the other hand, the sizable chunk of the workshop today was to kind of determine whether this seal needs rescue, whether that seal doesn't need the rescue. So you still, this is part of the education, I guess.
Yes, and because these guys that we were training today are going to be our volunteers on site, so if we ask them to go to site, it gives them a better knowledge of what they're actually looking for, because although 90% of the time we can tell from a photograph about a seal, sometimes you actually need to see it because photographs can be deceiving. So if we have our volunteers that know what they're looking for, they can go on the site and have a look and say, oh yeah, that seal is very tired. It's kind of just, because somebody on the phone could be telling us that the seal's breathing very heavily, or it's doing this and that and the other. But a lot of people, they panic when they see a seal. So, we've had reports of seals, their heads hanging off, there's flippers, broken, everything. But when you get out to site, there's nothing wrong. It's just people automatically overreact and think that there is something wrong.
There's a seal on the beach, it's surely something wrong with it.
Yeah. So that's why our volunteers, if we train them on what to look for, it's a good help. They can report back to us to give us the information.
Yeah. And you said that it's the more you see the seals, the more you kind of know which one is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you for something even harder now to do, because this is the podcast. So we only have like a spoken word. But if you would have to give like a, very bare bones, rough descriptions, like what to look at when the seal, like, for sure doesn't require to be rescued and there's nothing to worry about.
If you see a seal on a beach and it's got nice big wet patches around its eyes, that shows it's a good, healthy, hydrated seal. If it's nice and round and fat and chubby, it definitely doesn't need rescued. Another good sign, or a common sign of a healthy seal, is the banana shape, as we call it. When seals get themselves literally into the banana shape. If you see a seal that's lying on the beach with its head flat on the ground and it looks really sad and miserable, there's a good chance that seal will need rescued. But if it's happy and it's in the banana pose,
Yeah,
then,
it's like this core exercise called Superman, right? Like almost if you're like lying on your tummy and you have your hands outstretched forward, up, and legs also up.
kind of pretty much that's what a seal looks like when it's happy and in the banana pose.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all people who are into fitness and core exercise, like a Superman,
Like a Superman,
like
yeah.
a Superman pose. If the seal does that, it's
a good happy seal. If you see a seal and it's on the beach and it's got very crusty, dry eyes and its nose and face, look very dry, maybe it's just lying. Seals give you, if you think of a puppy that gives you big sad doggy eyes when it feels sick, seals do exactly the same. They look at you with the big sad doggy eyes.
Yes. And is it like mainly like a puppies? Is it mainly pups?
It is mainly pups we get calls about. You do get the odd call for adult seals, but unfortunately half the time when you try to rescue them, they go to the water before they can be rescued.
Oh,
But it is mostly anything from about a year old to a pup.
Okay, so it's not like the adult seals doesn't need help. It's they're wild animals and
they'd rather just be left alone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You said another thing during a workshop today about pup seals lying on the beach, and people are all around them, and like either it's very cute, nice seal, or it's requires help and so on. But actually, mother is in the water looking at that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are the worst. Mums leave some of the pups on the beach during the winter months with the grey seal pups. People come onto the beach and see a cute little pup there. They want to go over and get selfies with it, things like that. But unfortunately, whenever people do that, mum will actually abandon the pup. So going over and getting a selfie with
like
a little
completely
pup,
abandon?
she will completely abandon it.
Oh.
Yeah. Especially like she likes to come out, she'll patrol up and down the edge of the water. But if she realizes she can't get out to her pup, she will just leave the pup and then we'll need to rescue it.
Wow. But you said about the situation where the seal kind of actually came out of the water and proceed to feed the pup. So it's not like immediate situation where it's just, oh, I'm out of here.
Well, it's that the one you're talking about in Wicklow. Basically, we moved the people to the other side of the beach. You're talking maybe 300 yards away from where the pup was. And as soon as everybody moved away from the pup, mum was happy to come out and feed it.
Right.
But while people were actually around the area, like right around the area where the pup was, mum wouldn't come out. She was terrified.
Yeah. But I mean, they're not going to abandon the pup like immediately. They will kind of stick around.
They'll
in the
stick
water,
around for a while, but
situation.
if it's a busy beach where it's happening on a regular basis, she will just give up and leave.
Yeah. I even in one of the recent episodes of the podcast, I was talking with Maura Kelly from Leave No Trace, and she was saying about the situation in I think Dublin, where kite surfers were this disturbing oyster catcher colony. They didn't know. Didn't know. It's not like they were disturbing on purpose. They didn't know. They just, one of those situations where people mean all good, right? And they just don't know. And as soon as they tell them, like, look, here's a colony of oyster catchers, and they were more than happy to move. So it's kind of like the same situation. That
it is, and again, it's down to the education. People don't realize, people just think that the mum's going to come out and feed it at some point. But that's where we're trying to educate people that, you can watch that seal, you can view that seal from a distance. You don't need to be right on top of it, and if you do watch from a distance, you're going to see nature at its best. Yeah. And that's what you want.
Yeah. I don't know what's the next thing, because I want you to talk through the species of seals, but maybe before we go to that, I just want to continue on the subject of the distance of the seal. They're dangerous animals, right?
They are very dangerous. They'll give a nasty bite as well. And especially like if you're out kayaking or you're swimming in the sea, a seal's not going to swim up and bite you. But if you are there, pressuring a seal or trying to pet a seal, there's a good chance it's going to try and take a chunk out of you because it's going to feel, it's in trouble. Yeah. So it's definitely not good to be around them.
One of my fishing buddies was telling me a story about I think it was I don't know if it was an angler or just a guy who got bitten by the seal, and within the 3 days he died because of a like internal infection, like a blood infection that he got from the seal. Have you heard about anything like that?
I mean, we do know that like seals do carry diseases. So, I mean, we recommend anyone that gets bitten, they need to go to the doctor straight away to get antibiotics, but I've never heard of anyone dying.
Okay. Well, maybe it was just my fishing buddy but he was pretty serious. Apparently he was in the hospital in Cork, and the guy was get there and got some sort of a blood infection that caused.
I mean, yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, they do carry disease, so it just depends.
Yeah. So it is a kind of, and I know that you mentioned that none of the volunteers was bitten by the seal, bar one, but it is a certain risk, right? Because you're dealing with a wild animal, and especially if that animal is in a distress.
There is always that risk of getting bitten, but if you do as you're trained and just take your time, and don't go rushing out to try and help it. If you use the procedures you've been shown, there's you shouldn't be getting bitten.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that on my YouTube channel there's a video coming of that parts, at least that workshop, like how to tackle seal using towel and a box. Okay, we get in a second into what's gonna happen next once you identify the seal that needs rescue, because that's, I kind of want to go through the whole process, what's happening, and then your facility, and that what's happening in your facility. And obviously you're trying to release all the seals to the wild. You're not running a zoo.
No.
You're just trying these seals to keep them wild, and as soon as they go to the wild. So I'm very interested in that whole process. But before we get to that, can you explain to our listeners what are the species of seals and how to tell one from the other in Ireland? Or maybe not necessarily in Ireland, whatever you feel comfortable like.
No, well, here in Ireland, we have two species of seals. We have the common seal, which is also known as the harbour seal, and then we have the grey seal. We have had a few recent visitors from Arctic species, which aren't normally found here at all. One we currently have at the centre, a little ring seal pup. Unfortunately, we can't release her here in Ireland. We are going to have to take her home.
Right.
But the most common ones we would have would be a common seal and a grey seal. Common seals, they're born around the summertime, so usually June, July and August. And they're born with their adult coat. And they look like little putty cats. That's the easiest way to tell them apart. The grey seals, they're born in the winter. They're born with a white fluffy coat, and they're the ones that mum leaves on the beaches while she goes off to feed, because they don't usually swim with their white coat. Yeah,
standard procedure. So for these seals, that's a standard procedure. Pup is basically being left on the beach.
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, no, the pups are fine. Mum leaves them there. She comes back out and feeds them. And then after about 3 weeks, they molt their baby fur. And mum then goes off and leaves them to fend for themselves.
Okay.
So the other difference, the grey seals, they kind of look like a bulldog. They've got big noses, big long noses. So we call them the cats and the dogs of the ocean.
Yeah.
So we do. They're, like I say, they're born 2 different times of the year as well.
Yeah, and there's size difference.
Common seals get up to about 90 kilos in weight.
Yes.
Whereas a grey seal can reach up to about 400 kilos for a male.
That's a big
It's
animal.
a bit of a difference.
That's a big animal. Yeah. And so that tells you why it can be dangerous. You don't want to face like a 400 kilos angry seal with big teeth.
And we release ours at 35 kilos, so there's a bit of a difference.
Right. So we have essentially 2 species of seal. Why those ring seals that you said you cannot release that here in Ireland? Because you think that the reason they get lost and ended up here in the first place is the reason why you have them in the
like we don't know why she's here. We honestly don't. She appeared in Kerry, and then we eventually got her collected in County Clare. But we don't know if her mum is here somewhere, or whether she has just got lost and swum the wrong direction, or we don't know. So what we want to try and take her home back near where there's a colony of Arctic seals.
Right. Wow.
So
that's
it's actually pretty special to have her.
Wow.
So
Were you surprised when you got that?
We were very surprised, and the same week we actually had a report of a hooded seal.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's been a few busy months.
How is that? You look at the photos and you say like, no, not possible. Like, how did that play out when you first?
Well, to be honest, when she was in County Kerry and we received a video and photos of her, we thought it was a premature common seal because it just looked like a common seal pup with white fur. But it was January time, and common seals aren't born. Like at the earliest, we've had preemies in May, not in January. And it was only under closer inspection on the video, we realised that it definitely wasn't normal.
Wow.
So yeah.
So then you kind of go when the seal was found, and
when we got the seal in County Clare, we got it straight to the vet.
Oh, so somebody kind of brought the seal.
Somebody lifted it for us and took it straight to the vet, and then we got it transported down to our centre.
Right. Okay, so that's a good segue now to transporting seal. And so let's say we have volunteers, right? So the procedure is like there's a people walking down the beach and they see the seal, right? They call center, and then what's happening?
Whenever someone rings the centre, we ask them obviously to send the photographs. Then myself and our animal care manager Sam make the decision on whether the seal needs lifted or whether it just needs to rest, and we'll check on it again in 24 hours. Once we make that decision, if we are going to lift it, we have a stranding network which has over 900 volunteers.
Sorry to cut you. But first, if you decided that to check it on 24 hours, so how does it work? It's like, is it like you're asking the same person who
a lot of the times the finders can be excited that they've actually found a seal and they're willing to go out and check it, every couple of hours.
Volunteers.
Pretty much, yeah. That's actually how we get a lot of our volunteers too. They find seals, they don't know what to do, and then they want to learn. So we do have a lot of volunteers come into us that way, but a lot of the time the finder will just be like, yeah, I'll go back and check in 2 hours if it's there. I'll be out walking the dog or something.
Okay.
If not, we'll ask a volunteer who lives local to check on it in the afternoon or something.
Okay. So this is where provided that person is not interested or not local. So then it's like seal is on the beach somewhere and the call is made to your facility. Right. Where are you based?
We're based in Wexford.
In Wexford, right?
Yeah.
So somebody calls to Wexford, and then you look at the photos and so on, and then you're trying to contact one of your volunteers who is local, which was a training here, like to train the volunteers, right? So it kind of comes back, and you're trying to dispatch somebody who received training like the one today to actually see what's up with the seal.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, which we'll put a post out on. We also have, it's basically run through Google, it's Google Maps, and when we type in the name of the beach, it gives us a list of the volunteers in that local area.
Oh.
So once we get a trained volunteer, we just add them to the map, and it does it all for us.
Okay.
So we can pick, we don't have to start searching through all the list. We can just type in the name of the beach and it brings up the closest people.
Right.
So we'll just start ringing them to see if they can go out and attend.
Okay. So then the volunteer gets a call. It's like almost like in the movie, gets a beeper. We would not use beepers anymore, but I can almost picture like, oh, I need to, sorry guys, I need to leave, and he's going somewhere, going to the beach, check up on the seal to see whether it's, like you said, nice and chubby and doesn't... Well, no, actually, at that point, already...
We will have already
have
told
a pretty
the volunteer...
good idea.
Yeah, we'll have already given the volunteer the information if we want it lifted, or if we want them maybe to take some more photographs or to give us another opinion.
Right.
So if we have asked them to lift it at that point, we will then arrange transport from the area to our centre.
Right. So then this is like probably the hardest job for a volunteer when they actually need to capture. I don't even know if capture is the right word, but kind of get the seal and transport it.
Well, that's why Facebook, believe it or not, is a wonderful invention because we have a private Facebook group, so we can put a post up saying, we're looking to get a seal, say, from Donegal to Wexford. So people will see that and they'll ring us and say, listen, I'm in Longford, I can get it to Dublin for you. Or somebody will ring and say, listen, I'm in Dublin, I can take it to Courtown. So it does work. We're not constantly ringing. There are days that we can't find people and we have to physically ring every person.
Okay.
that's
And
trained.
actually
It can
convince
be a
them.
long process.
Right. Do you often kind of like convincing people to do it? It's like, I kind of was planning to watch my favorite movie. And then you go like, no, but you're a volunteer. Come on. And like this.
What we find works on Facebook a lot is if we put a picture of the seal that needs rescued on the Facebook, onto our group chat, and people are like, oh, okay, I'll help.
They see big cute eyes and like, oh, these poor seal. And I always, when I think about the next thing to ask you, I almost think that kind of attending that training works to my disadvantage, because I'm kind of going to ask a question that I already know the answer, so it kind of takes away like a genuine. But like if you can tell us, like, for the purpose of our listeners who obviously never attended a training course, like how did that process look like? What that person is doing? Let's try to get the lights on. Okay, there we go. How did that process looks like of actually getting a seal? And like, it's dangerous animal, right? So we say like, what it consists of. Well, I'm pretending I don't know. I haven't seen anything. It's like, oh my God, Mel, how on earth I mean,
there's different ways that we can rescue a seal. A lot of the times we use a towel over their head, and we can hold the back of their neck, and that way, we can control them from biting us. If we have a big tub or a big box, we can just scoop them into that. We do recommend, if we have a box with a lid or something, and you have a second person that you can actually, so you don't have to physically handle the seal.
Yeah.
You can sort of box in the seal to get it into the tub.
Yes. And that way then to the car.
And then into your car and transported. I've had some weird looks when I've stopped at a garage to put diesel in, and there's a seal looking out the back window, and you're...
Did you ever get like accused of poaching or anything like that?
No, only one. Well, once I was in Wexford, I was about to grab a seal that was on rocks, and I had a cage and I had my seal rescue hoodie on, and a guy came over and tackled me and was like, "Stop trying to steal the seal." And the seal had actually a really bad injury, but he thought I was just a random person stealing a seal.
Stealing a seal. Okay, so
he was watching me from his house up on the hill.
Right, but that is like a legitimate concern, right? Because they're protected species.
They are.
Wildlife Act defines them as a protected species, so you're not supposed to. Yeah, you're not supposed to do what? You're not supposed to kill them, right? But
you're not supposed to kill them. You're not supposed to handle them or anything like that. But we have, obviously, through National Parks and Wildlife, we have permission that we can obviously intervene and rescue a pup, which is why all our volunteers get a rescue vest that says specifically on it, rescue team. We wear hoodies with Seal Rescue Team on the back. We have cards that say, they're trained volunteers.
Yes.
Just to try and cover every avenue.
Right. So this is kind of like this. You can do that, and then
they have permission to actually do it on behalf of us.
So volunteers tackle a seal, put a seal in a box, and then from car to car, exchanging it somewhere on the
McDonald's car park.
McDonald's car park. Yes, they finally get to Wexford.
Yeah.
And what's happening? What is because so? Would you say that this is the most difficult part? To actually get the seal to your facility, or this is just like, well, this is the easy part. Now the hard part is once it's there.
It is hard to get the seal to the facility, and we obviously want to make sure it gets there in one piece and has transported perfectly. Once it gets to the facility, depending on what kind of seal it is, depending on its injuries, some seals come into us and they're gone within 4 weeks. Other seals are with us up to 6 months. So it all just depends on the individual seals. Seals at the minute are coming in, and we're releasing them maybe within 6 weeks because they just need fattened up. They've got into a wee bit of trouble. We've given them some medication, wormed them, and let them go again.
Right.
But then you get other ones that have come in with nasty injuries that need surgery. Maybe little pups that haven't figured out how to eat for themselves yet. We physically have to train them how to eat for themselves.
Can you tell again for our listeners about the eating, about like difference between the species of seal and the eating? That was fascinating.
So common seals, whenever they're born, swim with mum straight away, and she teaches them everything they need to know. Grey seals, because they're born in land, mum will feed them. She'll just come out and breastfeed them if you want, and then they learn by instinct Once mum has left them, they head off on their own and instinct should kick in.
Right.
So the difference between the commons, basically mum teaches them what to do. The greys have to figure it out for themselves.
Right. So how often you're getting pop common seal that wasn't taught yet?
Quite often. So in the summer, whenever we have our babies come in, we would tube feed them an electrolyte solution for the first wee while. Then we would start gradually introducing them onto fish soup. Once they are a couple of weeks old and strong enough, we will start to teach them how to eat fish.
Right.
So
how do you teach the seal to eat fish? That's like, if people, but these are like legitimate things, right? And if people listening to that is like, what the heck? Like a bunch of people teaching seal to eat a fish. Are you crazy? And that's actually what's happening.
Have you, like, I'm not sure if you've ever seen a seal eat a fish. It swallows it whole.
Yeah.
So we have to teach the commons to do that. We basically teach them, they have a gag reflex. So we have to teach them to swallow past the gag reflex, and it can take a while.
Is it like, are you worried about that the seal gets choked on the fish? Like...
No, they would just spit it out. They spit it out. Once they learn, they're pretty good. They then hand feed, and then they figure the rest out for themselves. We have them in baths and stuff, so they can pick it up pretty quick after that.
Okay. Right. So how do you handle seal once it's there? Obviously, you teaching it, you, like you said, all the stuff that you said, but you have like a kennels, or you have like a pool for the seals, or how does that
whenever
work?
A seal first comes into us, it's an ICU. Then when it moves into a kennel, like to handle it, we physically, as I was demonstrating earlier with the towel, and then we have to kneel over the seal and hold its mouth so that it can't obviously bite, whether we're going to feed it then or give it injections or medications, but we can control how we work with it.
Wow. Oh,
it's hard work.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks it's a case of, you rescue a seal, you just go in, feed it, and home again. It's not as easy as that.
Yeah, like in my head is like more like a sophisticated veterinary facility. You obviously have a vet on the site.
We have a vet, not on site now. We have a local vet that we use, and she would come out quite often to visit the seals and stuff. All our guys, like our animal care manager, assistant animal care managers, they're all trained on how to give medications, how to give injections.
Right.
But they're not allowed to do that until they're physically trained.
Paramedics kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody has to be trained on how to do it properly. So.
How does your facility look like?
At the minute, we have 8 ICU sort of box areas. We have 12 kennels, all that have a full-size bathtub in them. We then have 4 pools as well. So once the seals are all, a decent weight, they're eating by themselves, they're off all their medications, they go out into the pool. Because that way we don't have to handle them anymore. We just throw them fish throughout the day.
Yes.
Whereas in the kennels, we keep them in kennels while they're having to be handled on any medications they have to get. So.
Yeah. How many seals you can keep in here?
Well, at the minute we have 39 on site.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. The storms the last couple of weeks have been bringing us in quite a few seals.
Okay.
So we've 12 kennels. So in the summertime, we could probably, at a squash, if we were stuck, put 3 pups into each kennel. Thankfully, the last few summers have been pretty quiet, so we've only had 1 seal in each kennel.
Okay.
But in the winter, you'd be lucky to put 2 grey seals in the kennels because they fight amongst themselves. So
Right.
It can be busy. So really, with 12 kennels, 8 ICUs, and then the 4 pools. So you can only hold so many as well. You don't want to be overcrowding it, which can be a problem, especially after storms. We have to be tough and make some tough decisions sometimes.
Yeah. Well, like what?
If there's seals out there that are nice and chunky and fat, people think that we just need to lift them and bring them in. We don't. We need to just leave them on the beach. They need to learn. And unfortunately, it is nature. After Storm Ophelia, we had people literally bringing us healthy seals. People were just showing up on our doorstep with healthy seals because they thought they need rescued. And unfortunately, there was a lot of injuries. So we just had to be careful and make good choices on what seals were actually
Right,
helping.
right. So that's when from the beginning that we spoke, like they don't necessarily need a rescue.
Yeah, that's why we were like, we need to bring in the injured ones, the small ones, not seals that weigh 35 kilos that are fine. Do you know what I mean?
Nobody brought like 400 pounds.
No,
What was the biggest seal?
I think over the storm now, somebody brought us in a 38 kilo grey. That was fine, perfectly fine. Just arrived on our doorstep with it.
Isn't an adult seal 38 kilos?
No, it was still a pup. It was still a pup, yeah. Still had its white coat as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. So they're getting affected by the storms.
They are, unfortunately.
You would imagine that they're kind of like it was like that recording will be looking like a video recording will be so for people who are listening to this and not watching on YouTube, from time to time we're just waving our hands to just turn the light on in the room. That was awesome. Anyway, what we were talking about? Oh, about
the storms. Yeah. I mean, especially in grey seal pupping season, the storms get washed off the islands. The likes of the Salty Islands there in Wexford, the Blasket Islands, the pups get washed away from mum, which means they end up on beaches on the other side. There's no sign of mum, and unfortunately they have to be rescued then.
Yes.
Because some of them are fine, they're maybe just at that age that can learn to fend for themselves, but some of them are newborn pups that there's no chance they would survive without help.
Wow. So going back to your facility, it must be not easy to get funding for that.
A lot of our funding comes from our visitors and monthly donators. We do get a grant from the government. We apply for different grants from different companies. There's a lot, like Lush is a big one we would use quite a lot. But yeah, a lot of our money comes from our followers and sponsorships.
But you're saying like a government also think you put some
we do get a grant from the government every year in the Department of Agriculture grant.
So I would imagine that the Department of Agriculture kind of recognizes the need for rescuing seals if they're financially supporting you.
Yeah, I mean they do. They like every year they support quite a lot of charities throughout Ireland. We just have to apply for that every year.
Yeah. Okay, so just to finish off on the so we discussed the facility, and obviously somebody's there all the time to keep right.
Yeah,
it's not like you finish at 5 or 8, you close the door, shuts the lights off, and go home, and the seals just all by themselves.
Well, right now at this time of year, there's no midnight feeds or late night feeds, but during pupping season, the pups get fed every 4 hours. So the staff are in usually from 7 in the morning until about 7 at night. And then they'll come back every 4 hours to do the feeds throughout the night.
Wow.
Now, not all pups get fed, at 4 a.m. It's only if they're very tiny or they're premature or, they're very, very poorly.
Right.
But a lot of the time, the guys are on site from around 7 a.m. until last feeds around 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay. Wow. Okay, and at what point you're deciding that, that seal is good to go?
Usually, a common seal will usually release around 30 to 35 kilos. A grey seal will usually release around 30, 35 kilos too.
So that's purely based on the weight?
But every seal's different. Like right now, we have a few seals that are ready, like they're up to weight, but they maybe have injuries or, different issues. So there's also, it comes the case, if we're really, really busy, there's maybe grey seals that are 29, 30 kilos and they're eating grand and they're doing fine in the pools. We'll release them to give us space or things like that too, because, they're doing fine. At this time of the year, we'll try to keep our common seals a wee bit longer, just to give them the fat reserves to go out into the storms and things like that.
Right.
So again, it all depends on the time of year. So it does.
So, okay, so let's decide. We got the seal. We identified the seal. Seal was brought in. Then you were feeding it, and okay, now it's good to go. One thing is, like you mentioned, and I like to discuss that as well. You make sure that they're not getting accustomed to people.
Yeah.
Right. So how you do this? Because on one end you're feeding it and you're tackling it and you're kind of kneeling on it and do all these things. And then it's like, no, I was just trying to not get accustomed to people. But then you have also visitors.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of reconcile the two? Because it seems like opposing things.
Yeah. Now, they're wild animals and we want them to stay as wild animals. The good thing, the common seals are the ones that we really worry about because they can be humanized very, very easily.
The smaller ones.
The babies. Basically, whenever our staff are well trained and told, you can't go in there, you can't talk to the seal, the way you would with a dog, oh, come on, me puppy, and you can't. You've literally, you got to go in, no matter how much that seal looks up at you with their big, big, big eyes. You go in, you give it its meds, you give it its food, and you come out again. You're in and out as fast as you can. We've actually, we've changed a lot of feeding procedures and stuff over the last few years. Things we're doing now differently and quicker. New feeding tubes that means you're only in with the seal for seconds rather than minutes at a time.
Right.
So basically we try, if we're giving them medications, injections, we're only interacting with them at one time. So we're not feeding them and then get in 10 minutes later, give them an injection and then 10 minutes later do something else.
Okay.
You do everything in one foul swoop, in and out.
Right.
Try not to spend any time with them.
And make sure the seal treats you as something not pleasant. Like the human encounter is not pleasant. I'm getting jabs and I'm getting all this. And luckily it's just once a day.
Yeah. And once the common seals go out to the pool, we have a pre-release pool that's actually fenced off.
Oh.
So the public can't see those seals and the seals can't see the public. And whenever they're in the pools as well, we don't let them see us feeding them. We hide or we put it in through, a closed part of the pool that they can't see us.
So they not make a connection between people and food.
Yeah.
That's very important.
With the grey seals, it's not so bad because no matter how nice you are to a grey seal, you'll never get it to like you. So, yeah, they're always really angry at us. So it's not so bad, yeah.
And these are the bigger seals.
The bigger ones, yeah.
Big angry
ones.
seals. Oh man, that's interesting. How does that pool work? Are you changing water? Is it some elaborate filtration system?
The pools are cleaned and changed every couple of days.
Yeah.
So they are flushed out, cleaned.
Yeah. So are you moving the seals when you're cleaning its kennels?
No. We just drain in the pools we'll drain it and then clean around them. In the kennels we use a Safe 4 disinfectant that's good for animals. There's no hassle. We just clean around them.
Right.
And then we clean out their bathtub and things and they move out of the way from us. They don't.
How long usually, on average, how long a seal stays?
We try to get them out within 3 months.
Oh.
We try to keep them as little time as possible.
Yeah, but it's still substantial time, 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
It's not like it comes in 3 days and it's
No. You get, like I say, you do get the odd seal that comes in that's fine after, a couple of weeks and you can release it again. Some of the guys that come in with injuries, unfortunately, are with us a little longer until the injury heals or whatever. If they've had surgery or something like that, we have to keep them that little bit longer.
What are the most common injuries or reasons the seal needs the rescue?
The main reason is abandonment.
Oh.
A lot of seals are abandoned due to humans.
Okay, so it's not really that they're getting struck, but hit by a boat or have a cuts from the propeller or whatever. It's just being abandoned.
Abandonment is a big one. Now we do get injuries. We've had a couple of seals this year with fishing net injuries. We had one come in the other day with a nasty fishing injury. We have in the past had 1 or 2 boat strikes, but it's not a regular occurrence. Injuries from the storms, the seals are getting bashed off rocks, or you're getting broken flippers, or nasty wounds and stuff from that.
Gotcha.
But that would only be sort of this time of year from the storms.
That's interesting, because I would thought that the majority would be entanglement in the fishing nets or broken something. Or
there are a lot more seals out there with entanglements that we just can't get to or.
Right, because these are adult seals.
Adult seals or older seals, ones that are coming up to a year old that are smart enough that as soon as they see a human, they're away. So you can't actually help them. As much as you try to, there's ones we've spent days trying to catch and you just can't get them, no matter how much you want to help.
Yeah. So majority is just a young pup abandoned on the beach.
Worms is another issue. They get into trouble after they've been left on their own. They get worms from the fish, and it makes them very, very poorly and sick.
Oh. What is it? What's the connection between them getting worms and being abandoned? I mean, like how they will not get the worms if they're not abandoned?
Oh no, they don't get a worm. This is just whenever seals have been like left by mum and they go out to fend for themselves.
Okay.
They get worms. They're going for the slower fish. They're trying to learn how to eat, so they're picking the slower fish, and it's the slower fish that's got worms.
Yes.
Then their immune systems are so bad that they're getting that they're getting sick.
That's a first. Like, okay, we were just, for people who listen, that we were just waving again to turn the light on. That was great. Okay. So how does the process of releasing the seal looks like?
Whenever a seal's ready to go, unfortunately at the minute with the weather, we're constantly having to reschedule releases because we can't release them in the bad weather. But we will get them caged up into a dog cage or a dog kennel. We'll take them down to the beach, and we let the people that found them know. We usually give them a week's notice, and then we just open the doors and let them go back into the water.
Okay.
It's actually a very amazing experience to watch.
Yeah. But is it like always in Wexford, or are you trying to get them to the place when they were taken from?
We release most of our grey seals in and around Wexford because, again, it's all down to money and transport and getting the seals across country. And even if we find a seal, say, here on the beach in Kerry, it doesn't mean the seal was from here originally. We've had seals where they have left Wexford and they've headed to the UK, or they've headed to Holland, or they've headed to Scotland.
Yeah.
They don't stay in one place anyway.
Right.
So we just release them as and where we can.
So as a species, they travel a lot. What's the
Yeah, pattern? I mean, seals they travel quite a bit. Some seals we've released in Wexford and they're literally still hanging around up in Wicklow right now. We spotted them on beaches up there. Others we have released and they've headed towards Scotland. We've other ones have been spotted in Cornwall, and
right.
So they all just head off on their own.
Okay. So in other words, if the seal was caught in Kerry, well, maybe caught is not the correct word. Well, rescued in Kerry and released in Wexford, that doesn't bother that seal.
No,
because
the seal's never going to go and look for its parents because its mum has already left it to fend for itself. So it'll just go off and have its own life.
Right. So they're not territorial.
No.
Okay. So they're just go out there. Then is it like all the seals don't establish territories, or is it?
No. Well, I mean, seals will find they'll find a spot where they're happy and where they like to be, and they'll probably stay there the rest of their lives. It's like. Okay. Female grey seals, once they find a safe spot to have a pup, they will usually have the pup back in the same spot every year.
Okay. So this is what it comes to play here, that these are pup seals. So they may as well establish their territory around Wexford rather than Kerry, and it doesn't bother them. Did you ever have like an adult seal? That you handled adult seal?
We think the oldest seal we had was around 5 or 6 years old, but it was a very poorly seal. It was the only one we've ever had at the centre. We have had a couple of seals rescued in Donegal, but they were so poorly that they didn't even realise they were being rescued, and they were taken to vets and euthanised straight away, because a lot of the adult seals, you physically couldn't handle them.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, you just could. They're too big, they're too smart, so unless they're physically... in bad shape, you're not going to...
Yeah. So it's mainly pup seals.
All pups, yeah.
Does it happen often that you have to euthanize the seal?
Again...
Is that one of those hard decisions, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, with seals come in with specific injuries there, broken, smashed front flippers, things that aren't going to... Even if they healed, the seal, could never survive out in the wild, or... I mean, we don't euthanize seals lightly either. Do you know what I mean? We do try to give as many of them a chance as possible. Yeah. But if it is in such a bad way, we don't want it suffering. We would rather just let it go. Yeah. But thankfully, we don't have to do it too often.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting. What would you say to people, because obviously there will be an argument like, well, they should be left alone, and that's all nature, and this is how the nature looks like. They're protected species, don't interfere with the nature. Like, keeping in mind that Irish government and what's again name of the department, wildlife and
Parks and Wildlife.
Parks and Wildlife supports you, right? So let's keep that in mind. But in general, like for people who have this approach, like, oh, this is like all the nature and you should leave the seal to die on the beach because that's what nature wants. What would you say to that?
Every animal deserves a chance.
Okay, so we back really to compassion and saying, like,
Yeah.
hey, why don't we help it?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what we're there to do is rescue and help seals, we'll rescue and help seals. You could get into an argument, you could go round in circles for hours, about the do's and don'ts or why to lift it, why not to lift it.
Yeah.
But I don't think there are many people out there now that are happy to let animals die. Everybody now is at the stage where they want you to help.
Yeah.
So they are, I think things are changing quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I would like to take this opportunity and kind of compliment you and the organization that we obviously had discussions here during the workshop, and you are very specific about what you do, what the seal rescue does. We rescue seals, so you're not getting into conversation, you're not getting involved on either side of various arguments like one that I just brought. You're very specific. We're here to help seals for various reasons, like you said, ethical reasons or conservation reasons. This is what we do. We're not getting involved with that. So I think it's very smart, and I would like to kind of
Thank you.
mention that kind of positions you where you are and where you're not.
Yeah.
And that's listen, if people who listening to that want to help and get involved, please tell us how to contact you or Seal Rescue Ireland, and how to get involved and how to contribute and do the thing that you want them to do. Yeah,
you can check out our website. It's just www.sealrescueireland.org. All the information's on there, email addresses, things like that. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere like that there. You'll find us as well, and you just see loads of cute pictures of baby seals.
Oh, so you're only posting cute pictures.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want the people get discouraged with the nasty ones.
You get the odd one, kind of like the wounds I showed earlier. Sometimes we post those up on Facebook. So we do. And we do, like we'll post up and tell people if a seal dies. We keep people informed as much as possible. Because a lot of people sponsor our seals, adopt our seals, so they love to know what's going on. So we do keep people pretty much clued in all the time. Yeah. But the important thing is that you're gonna make sure that you're gonna only rescue seal that actually needs the rescue. Yeah. Because I'm just thinking about this effect, like, oh, I'm gonna rescue the seal anyway, and then I can track it on Facebook and see. The last thing you want to do is rescue a healthy seal. A seal is going to do better. It does well with us, but the best place for a seal is out there in the water on the beach. If it doesn't need rescued, we'll not lift it. Perfect. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners that I haven't asked you or missed? I think so. I think you've covered everything there. We covered everything. Okay. So, yeah. Mel, thank you very much. I wish you good luck in Seal Rescue Ireland. And thank you. Thank you.